Kira's going to talk today about some sustainability tips that you can introduce in your life, just being really casual about introducing a better way of living for the environment and for yourself. These are not life-changing tips, but they will help you impact the environment in a positive direction a little bit more.
I usually take this to restaurants because when you go to a restaurant and you ask for a carry-out box, it's usually styrofoam, or even if it is paper, that's better than styrofoam, but it still is going to a landfill and it's still sitting there. So I think it's better if you take it home in something reusable like this, so then you just wash it when you're done and there's no waste. The average toothbrush sits around for thousands of years because that's how long it takes for plastic to biodegrade. So the average person throughout their lifespan goes through 70 toothbrushes probably. If you think about that like on a bigger scale from the whole world, that's a lot of plastic toothbrushes sitting there. So if you use something like bamboo, it biodegrades very easily and you don't have as much waste sitting in the landfill. Something to go along with a toothbrush, I make my own toothpaste and I usually put it in something like this. You can go on Pinterest, you can go on Google. There are tons of different things you can make toothpaste out of so you don't have to throw away the plastic tube. And that's also one of those other little things that really just saves a lot. Using any kind of straw to take with you is good, but metal straws are good when they're stainless steel. But going along with the bamboo toothbrush, bamboo is a plant that grows really fast, so therefore it doesn't take very much to produce it and for the whole process. So I have bamboo straws, and they're really cool because they're plant-based, and so there's a lot less energy production that goes into making it than a metal straw. So if you are going to use a reusable straw, then bamboo is also a really good option. Anything in moderation, so that basically means do what you can to help. I was in Europe and they're really environmentally friendly there, and I thought that was a really good time for me to kind of delve in and see what kind of things they do in different countries, because they are banning single-use plastics and they're kind of planning to phase them out within the next 2 years. So I was in Sweden and I saw these. It was really just at an airport, and they're wooden and they're biodegradable utensils, and so they're better as opposed to plastic, which takes 450 to 1,000 years to biodegrade. Whether it's the utensils or a fruit cup or a water bottle, using anything except for plastic is a lot better for the environment, and it's all about what you can do to help. In place of plastic wrap, it's one of those little things that not a lot of people think about, like when you have a ketchup packet or when you have plastic wrap. It's a lot of single-use plastic that's disregarded instead of plastic straws and plastic water bottles, although those are very important to phase out and keep in moderation. This is a wax wrap and it's made by bees, so it also goes towards helping the bee population and keeping it up so the earth can be healthy. I just have some almonds in there, so you can take it and you can wrap it up. But also what you can do, I take all of these things with me in like a tote bag or whatever you prefer to carry around, and I use something old like a bandana for a reusable napkin, because that's also one of those things where little habits can lead up to like big change. If you think about how many napkins you're saving up, like 3 meals a day for 365 days, that's a lot of waste that is resolved. So if you don't happen to have your wrap with you, you can take whatever food you have and you can put it in the napkin like this, and what you can do is you can bunch it together and then make the ends meet, and then you tie it up just like that, and it'll go to, or like it'll kind of shape to whatever you're putting in there. It could be chips, it could be something like goldfish. It's really just a good way not to have to use, again, something minuscule like a plastic bag. That does take a while, and that does take up a lot of space in the landfill, and especially right now, it is really crucial that everyone does what they can. It's not necessarily like, don't use straws, don't do this. Like, of course, you should be conscious of those, but it's all about just doing what you can and doing what you're able to do to help the environment. My name is Kirah, and I am a sophomore.
Do you do like clubs and stuff at the school?
Yeah, I play tennis for the school, and that season is in the spring. And I'm also in show choir, and I'm in sound.
When did you start to get passionate about the environment and doing research?
I actually went to the Women's March in like 2017, and so I got involved in feminism and for just advocacy for human rights there. And so that kind of led to different passions and different liberal views. And so then I started to get involved in environmentalism, and once you really kind of start to discover empathy for other people through different types of activism, then I think that's kind of what led to environmentalism, just caring for the world around me and how to make the world a better place.
What's your favorite thing, like sustainability thing to do?
Plant a tree or pick up litter outside, stuff like that. That's really hands-on when you kind of feel in touch with the earth around you, and you really feel like you're helping and you're doing what you can, especially when you love being outside and you love nature. It's really that hands-on stuff when you're involved with nature. That's kind of the coolest thing to do. And the goal for the future is that more people really just become aware of the issues at hand and realize how serious they are. Like recently, I think a lot of people are aware of the fire in the Amazon, and that was really mainly caused by governmental companies that were illegally logging there. And so I really think it's just issues like that are more kind of behind the scenes that people become aware of. And when people become aware, that's when we start to make change. So I think really that's kind of the prime example of knowledge is power. And once we all kind of come together to do that, then I think that's when real change is going to start. And I hope that we start vocalizing our non-support for bigger companies that are really not sustainable and that do bad things for the earth. And I hope that we as a population start supporting bigger companies that do good things for the environment.
Do you have any examples of companies like off the top of your head?
There are some things you can't control. Like I know personally, our electricity bill is to Duke Energy, and the way they get energy is by burning fossil fuels. So there are also those things that you cannot really help, and that's okay because you need to see the other side, but that's why it's all about doing what you can. But bigger companies like ExxonMobil, I know, is a big one. They're very unsustainable.
Can you think of any companies that do that are more sustainable in nature?
Oh, yeah. I can think of companies for different stuff that help support different things. So I will start with your web browser. There is a web browser called Ecosia, and it's really cool. It's free, literally free, and it's just like using Google because it has all the same platforms and brings up all the same websites as Google. But for every search you do, you plant a tree. And so I think that's really helpful right now, and that's one of those like tiny things that you can do that is really awesome, and you can bond with the people around you. Like personally, my friends and I are like, how many trees did you plant this week? So it's really
Yeah, I think it's like
but
I think it's like every 42 searches you plant a tree or something.
Oh, yeah.
It's run by
Something like
Bing, so you get like pretty much the same results that you get on Google.
Mhm. Yeah, that's definitely a good option. And there's also a clothing brand called Change, and they make clothing that's really sustainably sourced, made out of sustainably sourced cotton, and that's a big thing. And they make not only shirts for environmental advocacy, but for women's rights, for LGBTQ plus rights, and they really just kind of delve in on the liberal sides, and they just make clothing that is sustainable and that will help you voice your advocacy for the things that you love most. So along with clothing, something you can do is I buy a lot of my clothes secondhand, and it's really cool to go to like Goodwill or Plato's Closet because you can find some really cool stuff there, and no one else has it. So I think that's a really cool part about thrifting. But also the fashion industry is the second most unsustainable industry in the world. So if you can cut back on the amount of clothes you buy from chain stores and stuff like that that are really popular, then that really saves on the carbon emissions being emitted from the production of your clothing. And
Wait,
so
really?
that's
interesting. I wouldn't think that would be it because like obviously the fossil fuel industry is number one, right?
yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like I wear my clothes for a while though.
Yeah, well, the thing is about fashion is that, like, with the fast fashion, that pretty much there's 52 seasons in a year for one every week because companies are, like, built to release so much new clothing every single, and, like, people will buy that clothing, not necessarily just you, but, like, people will buy new clothing as fast as companies can release it, so.
And that's also another thing you can do. Wear your clothes for a while, and when you're done with them, I mean, I've never fully understood why people just throw stuff away anyways. If it could be repurposed, you could donate it anywhere, really, because that's the saying, like, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Like, it's really cool to find stuff that you know someone else has had, and you're giving it kind of a new life and a new purpose, and you're making it your own. So that's something that a lot of people don't even realize is sustainable, that they love doing anyways. So secondhand clothing is great. Paying attention to false advertising like that is really important, because it's like you just said, that ExxonMobil ad, they're like, sustainable energy. No, they're one of the worst. They are one of the worst companies in the world because they are an oil producing company. So therefore, I think this kind of links back to what I said about having empathy. All greed comes. Sorry, I'm gonna go off on a little spiel, but it's like a little philosophical, but it's also okay. All greed, I believe, comes from a place of lack of empathy. So the more you want, the less empathy you have, and